the founder and managing director of LUMOS, a division of Animika Studios based in Bangalore, Mr. Gururaj Rao H B.
That's when you realize you want to take a step back and say, hey, what I didn't do till now, what have we not done till now?
It's fascinating to hear how branding evolved from print to digital and how challenges shaped your thinking.
It has been definitely very interesting and also very, I would say, I've gained a lot of knowledge and it has enriched my life.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another powerful episode of FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Sunny Pancholi. And our guest today has spent nearly 3 decades proving that creativity, when backed by strategy and technology, can move markets, build trust, and scale impacts. This episode is about clarity, credibility, and conscious leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Gururaj Rao H B to FaceTime with Leaders. Mr. Raj, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you doing today?
Hi, Sunny. It's been great. It's really a pleasure to be with FaceTime with Leaders today.
All right. So looking forward to a great conversation ahead. And Mr. Raj is the founder and managing director of LUMOS, a division of Animika Studios based in Bangalore, working across brand development, digital marketing, UX design, websites, e-commerce platforms, and mobile applications, serving clients across the globe with a highly focused team. Before LUMOS, he led ventures in Singapore, building wireless application products, securing e-commerce platforms with patented technologies, and working directly with banks, merchants, and telecom ecosystems, long before digital transformation became a boardroom buzzword. He has taught at IIM Bangalore, advised leadership institutions, mentored future leaders, and quietly contributed to some of the most meaningful social initiatives, from emergency ambulance services to rural education and empowering NGOs working with intellectually challenged youth. So, Mr. Raj, before we dive into branding, digital strategy, and everything you are building at LUMOS, let's start at the beginning. I mean, you have had a long and diverse career. So in simple words, can you take us through your journey so far? How did it all started and how did one phase naturally led to the another?
Thanks, Sunny. It's an interesting question. Just going back to my college days, as I was just about to complete my engineering, me and my teammates were discussing, my classmates, and we were all talking about what next in life. A lot of them were discussing about future studies and then, taking on a new role as an employee. And then what occurred to me was, okay, why don't I do my higher studies? Or why don't we do something on my own? But then I didn't have that kind of money to do my studies, but I still went and applied and I got an opportunity to actually start my higher studies with Ohio State University. But then I didn't have the kind of funds to make it. It was a very kind of a very sad part in my life where I said, okay, if money is not there, it's still fine, but I'll come back to it someday. But then I said, I should be on my own. I should do something on my own. And that's when most people said, no, we should start a job. We should get into an employment. But I was the one guy who had that entrepreneurial spirit in me and said, no matter what, I think I should do something on my own. And that's when I started learning new technologies. Back then, computers were very, very fresh. I'm talking of 1993. And being a civil engineer with an understanding of the science of constructions and architecture and all of that, I was able to pick up the new softwares in the market like AutoCAD and STAAD and start consulting for architects in the early days. Those days, architects were still on the drafting board where everything was done using drafting scale. And a small change means a huge amount of time loss. For example, if the client said that they want to change a wall or make the room bigger, then the architect had to redesign the whole plan to just accommodate that small request. The clients wouldn't know the kind of impact, but we knew. But because of the advancement in technology and thanks to computers and softwares then, we were able to modify that request within like minutes, maybe 30 minutes. And the architects were wowed with that. So one led to another. Solid modeling came into the picture. So we started doing 3D visualization and graphics. And then came animation. So we were able to do walkthroughs. We were able to do some really amazing facade options for our architects. And they were wowed by our work. Right then, at that point in time, while I was consulting for these architects and structural engineers, there was a company from Chennai that came down to Bangalore and was scouting for talent because they started the world's fourth largest studio in 3D graphics and animation, just after George Lucas ILM. And they were said that we fit the right kind of bill because I've come from an engineering background and I've already been consulting with architects, doing a lot of work in the space of 3D graphics and animation. They said, you're the right kind of talent to kind of come and join this lab. And that was like a dream come true because you can imagine Industrial Light and Magic being in Los Angeles. It's like a dream actually almost working there. A replica of that being in Chennai with 100 silicon graphic machines, more than 100, about 120 silicon graphics machines, state of the art, where we had even servers that could do satellite imaging then. I'm talking about 1995, 96 types. And I took the opportunity, and that was my first job working for a company in Chennai, where we did a lot of work in 3D graphics, animation, modeling, texturing, lighting, everything to do with the movie industry, the gaming industry, the teleseries, advertising, all of that using computer graphics. And I had the opportunity back then to work with Joe Alvis, who was Steven Spielberg's guru, who was the one who was a production designer for Jaws and Close Encounters and movies like that. So we did a lot of work for European studios, for Hollywood studios, for game industries. It was an amazing journey. No looking back after that.
Mr. Rao, thank you for the excellent start to this podcast and this conversation. All right, so continuing our conversation, you have been in this space for almost 30 years, and you have seen branding and marketing change completely from print and production to web to mobile to digital first businesses. So if you had to say this simply for our audience, what does branding really mean today? I mean, beyond logos and visuals, what should business owners actually be thinking about?
Just towards the end of my work career at the company in Chennai, I had an opportunity to do business development. So they were giving me opportunities to go to US, to go to Singapore, but I dropped all of that and then I went to Singapore to take up an opportunity with a startup. And that's where I realized that there's so much of emphasis on branding, so much of emphasis on strategy, planning that they would do before they even start a business. Or even established companies invest a lot of time in strategy, in branding, in marketing communications. And I saw that it was lacking seriously in India. So after my 3.5 year stint in Singapore, where I worked with companies, with startups, I built 3 business models, successfully established it, got it funded, and even sold a couple of companies. I was one of the first founding members in that startup. After coming back to India, and even in fact there in Singapore, while I was in Singapore, I started the first company on mobile technologies. So we had a lot of creative and tech ideas, and then we put together a piece. 3 entrepreneurs came together, we put together a model, and we were pretty successful at that stage. After my return to India in 2003, I established this company called LUMOS for branding and strategies for clients in India. And back then, it was a very difficult start. Most people would not give so much of importance for branding or for marketing. They think that marketing is an expenditure. Branding is not necessary. But we always advise our clients saying that it's an investment that you need to make into, it's almost like growing a baby. If you wish that your child should become some great individual, the president of a country, or a great cricketer, or a great footballer, you need to invest in that direction. You need to make sure that the child gets the right kind of training, everything, right? From physical training to tactical training to mental training. There's a lot of investment you need to make. Now, similarly, whether it's a product or a company or a service, you need to invest in building your company into a brand because that value is intangible value. And over a period of time is when we actually see the real, you can capitalize on the value. So what we call as brand equity. It takes some time to build your brand equity and then thereafter to actually measure the value of your brand. So most often people think that brand is just a logo or a visual identity or just a name. It is, some part of it is that, but then comes after that is your positioning. How effectively do you position your brand such that the perception of that particular brand in the market, the end users will actually understand what you're trying to tell them. A positioning will actually make or break a brand. So there are some very interesting case studies by very famous authors called Al Rice and Jack Trout, who wrote a book on positioning. They said how these big brands actually did well or they failed. Companies like Xerox, Volkswagen, Toyota, and all of these big brands, how they were successful just because they got their positioning right. Now, at the same time, they also speak of how some of the big brands made simple mistakes with their positioning and failed miserably in their process. Now, based on that, we actually advise our clients on positioning first. Also important is all the touch points in branding. We always feel that every single touch point that a customer is in touch with is very, very critical for the brand to be registered very strongly, effectively in the consumer's mind. So we always start with internal branding, where the employees are so important. The employees must wear your brand on the sleeve. They are your biggest brand ambassadors. If they don't have a buy-in of your brand, there is no way your brand can get established outside. Maruti Suzuki was one of those biggest case studies on branding where all their employees were their brand ambassadors. The employees of Maruti owned Maruti cars, and then they eventually became salesmen of these Maruti cars. That is the power of branding. If I don't wear it on my sleeve, I'll never be able to speak of my brand outside. India is one of those largest economies in the world now, and we definitely need branding to be intrinsic in everything that we do, be it a product, be it a service, be it a company, be it an individual. Even individuals need to be branded. So we have been in the space for the last 30 years. We've empowered many companies, a lot of big companies, small companies, NGOs, that we've empowered.
Mr. Raj, it's fascinating to hear how branding evolved from print to digital and how challenges shaped your thinking. That really shows the learning curve behind every decision that you made.
Thank you. It has been a very, very interesting journey. There has been a lot of highs and lows in this journey. There's no doubt about it. We've had our own set of challenges where customers don't actually see a value to investing in marketing or branding, but it's an education process. We need to continuously educate the customer with a lot of case studies so that they understand competition well before they even think of taking the first step forward. Because most companies in India have been the pop and mom shops, which have grown enormously to become large corporates or even multinational companies. But what happens is that till such time you don't have competition, you're still okay. But the day competition starts, that's when you start realizing, hey, there's something that I've not done effectively. What is that we've not done? So you start losing your market share. So first you start losing the mind share, which is branding, and then you start losing your market share. That's when you realize you want to take a step back and say, hey, what I didn't do till now, what have we not done till now? And that's when branding and brand communications and marketing comes into picture. So before it's too late, we always advise our clients to say that go back to your drawing board, go back to your business plan and see what you've actually not included. And then we can kind of help you build from there onwards. And it's not just about branding your company or a product. It's an evolution process, right? So you need to continuously invest consistently to enhance your brand value. There are a lot of case studies in the market that you see today. Even those companies that have failed, their brand is so good that today, even if they just sell their brand, it's worth few $1,000,000 in the market space. So we always advise our clients to consistently invest to enhance their brand value.
Absolutely, Mr. Raj. So, what I would like to ask you next is, you have worked with startups, established companies, global clients, and even non-profits. From all that experience, why do you think so many businesses invest in marketing but still don't see results? And where does the disconnect usually happen?
Marketing is a science, branding is a science. So when we say invest in marketing, they should actually have a business plan that kind of outlines and considers all the aspects which a company needs to consider in terms of understanding the landscape, understanding the consumers, understanding the geographic location, understanding the competition. What are the best tools that you need to do for marketing? So it's just that, okay, you have marketing dollars, you can just go and invest. It doesn't make sense. We have a lot of case studies like that. We used to work with an American company for e-commerce on herbal medicines. And they said, we have about $4,000 per month for marketing. So why don't you go and do digital marketing for us? And we said, give us 15 days. We did some research and we came back to them and said, we advise you not to invest a single dollar in digital marketing for now, because your brand is still not established. And medicines or health supplements are a space where people will not go and buy it off the shelf and pop it because it's very risky. It's to do with your health. Even though it's an OTC product, which need not be prescribed by a doctor, but still, before you take a health supplement, you want to be damn sure that it's going to not impact you negatively. So it's always prescribed or recommended by a specialist. So we told them, don't invest in digital marketing. They said, no, but we have to start business. You've built a very, very good e-commerce site for us, so we need to have business going. They said, okay, we'll get somebody in the US to do it. 3 months down the line, they spent $12,000 and they came back and said, Gururaj, whatever you said happened. We didn't get a single sale after this. Then they asked me, what should we do? I said, you should have asked the same question at that point in time. The most important thing is to actually go to the market and connect on the ground level with relevant businesses. Like, for example, Ayurveda centers, yoga therapy centers, native therapies, those who can recommend your products to their existing clients or customers. When somebody refers from that space, the experts, people will say, okay, this is going to work for me. For example, it could be like a health supplement like turmeric pill or a garlic pill, whatever it could be. Then it is safe. It does not going to affect them negatively because it's already been tried, tested, recommended by a specialist. So till they establish the product and the brand on the ground through a network of people, and when that trust is established, when the product is established, then comes the scale. Initially, you don't put your marketing dollars into all kinds of media and say, okay, let me do a print ad, let me do a television ad, let me do a marketing blitz on digital space, and then lose all your money, burn all your money in a month or two, and then you're wondering, where did I go wrong? That's not what it should be. It should be very scientific, very methodical, and you should know your end goal. You should define your objectives, whether you're looking at just eyeballs or you're looking at sales conversions or you're looking at building your brand, or it's a combination of all of this. Because unless you define your objectives clearly, you'll not be able to choose your tools effectively. You'll not be able to deploy your marketing dollars effectively.
Mr. Rao, that's really an interesting and insightful perspective, and thank you for sharing that with us. All right, so moving on to the next question. Today, everyone wants to be visible on social media, online platforms, digital ads. Now, if a business leader is listening to this right now and feeling overwhelmed, what's the one thing you would tell them to stop doing, and one thing you would tell them to start doing when it comes to their brand and digital presence?
Very interesting question, Sunny. Actually, most often we kind of experience this because a lot of clients come to us and say, we need to go onto social media. We need to do something very quick. I want quick eyeballs to happen. But most often it doesn't work that way, because I've seen a lot of these individuals or small companies or clients of ours who actually have already lost money or are facing some challenges after going onto the social media platform. The one thing that you must never do is to just go to social media, set up an account and start posting. You must never do that. You need to understand first, what is the space that you're operating in? Who is your target audience? What is the demography? what is the psychography of your potential clients or your prospects. And then you need to understand whether your product or service is something that they're looking for or not, whether it's really essential, whether it's very critical, or it's a luxury for them. Based on that, you actually strategize and plan your marketing efforts. The most important thing that we tell people is that your reputation is bigger than anything else. So don't kill it at the word go. So we always want to make you a champion or your company a champion on one network first. For example, LinkedIn is for professionals. For example, doctors. If you're a doctor or if you're a subject matter expert, LinkedIn is a space to be in. But what people do, they go to Facebook, they go to Instagram and start posting. And they say, we're not getting any traction. So most often, it's nothing to do with the network. The network is still good, it's still working for people. Why it's not working for another? It's because you didn't realize that you need to be a champion on the network that is relevant to you or your business first. And then once you gain traction, you go to other platforms only if necessary. Only if necessary. Like, for example, YouTube. YouTube is a video marketing is very, very big today. We all know that. TikTok, YouTube, all of that. Vimeo. So there are certain platforms which are very specific to certain domains. Like, for example, Vimeo is such a platform which is very high quality video, which is typically for creative professionals in the space of movie making, feature films, documentary, graphics, animation, all of that. So those are the kind of people who look for quality videos. So Vimeo is a space for them. Now, similarly, professionals, LinkedIn is a space for them. So you don't need to go to Facebook or Instagram and dilute your approach. The next most important thing is your reputation. I've seen a lot of companies, including big established companies, who are struggling in the social media space because there'll be a lot of brickbats. You just think that you can go and you can post, and then you expect a following or people to say praise you or whatever. But most often, you can also expect a lot of flack. People can come after you by saying something negative against you. And negative is something that catches like wildfire. The moment you put something negative, there'll be 10 more people saying something negative. So your reputation is at stake. So we always caution our clients to say reputation management is more important than just trying to get eyeballs or clicks or hits or sales through your website or through your social media network. So these aspects. So today what we say, we are saying social listening. Most of the companies are trying to understand how their brand is being accepted by the people, by their consumers. What are the consumers talking about their particular brand, about their products? And they want to know that. And that's why social media is so powerful, because social media gives you all this data which otherwise was not possible 20 years ago. Because you just do a newspaper advertisement or a hoarding, you won't even know who's seeing it. But today, you're getting a feedback and you're able to go back, do some analytics, and do some course correction thereafter. That's the power of social media. We need to use it effectively.
Mr. Raj, that's really practical way of looking at digital presence. And, it's easy to get lost in the noise. And your point about focus really stands out. So, all right, great conversation till now. And I would like to welcome you to the next round of the podcast, which is my favorite round, rapid fire round. So, short questions, quick answers, first thing that comes to your mind, nothing, no overthinking, nothing too much. All right, so are you up for it?
Sure, Sunny. Thank you. It's been great so far.
All right, so here I shoot you with the first question. What's the first thing you do when you wake up?
I pray. Usually I'm in silence for a few minutes. I close my eyes and I pray. I try to meditate for a few minutes.
Great. Your go-to comfort food after a long day?
I would love to have a dosa and a nice tea, a nice masala chai.
All right. What activity that instantly relaxes you?
I love playing golf. I love playing table tennis. I love reading, listening to music.
Nice. A book that has influenced the way you think?
Plenty of books. Autobiography of Yogi was my favorite by Yogananda Paramahamsa. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle has influenced me a lot. And of course, Spencer Johnson's Who Moved My Cheese. That is something very interesting. And Richard Branson's book, very, very important for us to understand for entrepreneurs as to how we can we can get opportunities even in adversities. There are so many opportunities out there. We always crib about adversities, challenges, but there are opportunities there also. Richard Branson's books are really amazing for that.
Incredible. All right, next question. One leader you admire deeply.
For one of the greatest leaders that I have seen in this space is Ratan Tata, the Tata Group, J.R.D. Tata, Ratan Tata, who have been through the most difficult times and still stood ground and made India proud as entrepreneurs. But I also looked at a lot of Western leaders like Steve Jobs, who also went through so many challenges, but yet they didn't stop with their creativity. Even though Steve Jobs was thrown out of his company, he came back with a bigger bang because he proved that knowledge is bigger than anything else, be it power, position, money.
Incredible, truly. All right, so talking about your favorite movie or show which you can watch again and again.
Matrix.
All right.
Matrix.
Great. One place you would love to travel to next?
Seychelles.
Okay. Nice. One habit you are currently trying to improve?
I'm trying to see if I can invest a lot of my time into understanding my inner self. That's the biggest myth in this world, to find true purpose and meaning of our life. So every single day, I invest a lot of my time in trying to go deep within myself to understand, why did I come to this earth? What is the purpose of my life? Where do I go next?
Nice. Yeah, your favorite way to unwind on weekends?
Oh, I would love to play golf. I would love to travel. I travel a lot. These are the activities I enjoy doing the most.
Great. All right, last question of the rapid fire round. Success in one word to you?
Knowledge. I think a human being evolves only with knowledge. Knowledge is equal to success. The more we learn, the more we grow, the more we succeed.
Great, knowledge. Great. All right. So that brings us to the end of the rapid fire round. And it's, you were very sharp, fun, and warm as well. And then that's the beauty of this part of the podcast because, you come to know the personal side of the professional.
Thanks, Sunny. It has been great talking to you. You brought back a lot of memories.
All right. So this talks about the bigger picture, the challenges that the industry faces. Mr. Raj, you have built businesses, advised organizations, taught students, and at the same time stayed deeply involved in social and community work, from emergency medical services to rural education and supporting NGOs. Now, when you look back, was there a moment in your journey where your understanding of success really changed, where you realized it had to be about more than just work or business?
Absolutely, Sunny. We always think as entrepreneurs that, okay, when we started a business, or when anybody starts a business, they think they work for themselves. They think that I can do anything that I want, including myself. But as an entrepreneur, you're actually working for others. You're working for your employees, you're working for your clients, you're working for the government, you're working for the society. And that's when I actually had to do a lot of introspection. And I said, like, there's something more to it than just being an entrepreneur. The power that we have as entrepreneurs is that we can impact society in a bigger way. Because a lot of change that we can bring about with the kind of knowledge, the kind of capacity that we have, the network that we have, the ideas that we have, that we can actually improve the quality of a life of others as well, and also contribute to the economic and social growth of the country. So this is what advantage as entrepreneurs we have. So going back to the time that I started, I parallelly started supporting a lot of NGOs who were there with either no or with some kind of a sustainable model. And then we realized that most of them never invested in branding or marketing. So that's when social marketing was a subject that I also used to teach. And I used to say that how NGOs, including government, it could be, should invest in branding and marketing. Because unless you speak for yourself, nobody will speak for you. So you need to package yourself very well, your products and services very well. Otherwise, for most NGOs, it is like a bottomless pot. You're continuously asking for donations, even though you're doing good work, and people are getting more and more frustrated with you. And you feel that you're doing good and nobody is helping you, but you don't realize that you don't have a sustainable model to sustain and scale thereafter. Otherwise, NGOs would just remain where they are even after 10 years. So that's when we started empowering NGOs to actually start thinking of strategies where they can build sustainable models and started empowering them with marketing and branding tools, with communication, and also taking them to market, not just advising them, but also taking them to market, introducing them to the network of clients that we were in touch with, partners and associates that we were in touch with, so that they were able to increase their revenue and scale thereafter. There are many case studies that we have. We have successfully helped NGOs to establish themselves, sustain and grow also.
Mr. Raj, hearing your definition of success shifted through real experiences makes the entire journey of yours feel incredibly grounded and meaningful. And, the way you tied your work across business, education, social impact really shows how layered that realization was, what actually success means to you. Great.
Thanks. Thank you, Sunny. It has been definitely very interesting and also very, I would say, I've gained a lot of knowledge and it has enriched my life. My life has become enriched with these kind of experiences.
Absolutely. So that brings us to the last segment of the podcast, last question of the podcast, in fact. And let me ask you, after nearly 3 decades of building businesses, advising organizations, and mentoring leaders, you recently chose to join a Directors Institute. So what made you take that step at this stage of your journey? And what were you hoping to gain or explore through the program?
I think learning is something that we do till our last breath. And at this stage of my career, the cusp of saying what next, I said, okay, a lot of these big enterprises need our services. I've been there, done it. Now we need to look at various aspects. Industry 4.0, already 5.0 is coming into the picture. Is India up to speed with them? Yes or no? We already see a lot of enterprises are struggling. Digital evolution is big time and it's at lightning speed today. So I said, why don't I start empowering myself first with this knowledge before I can actually reach out to these enterprises and start helping them with strategies and tools to come up to speed to compete in the global space. And I thought the World Directors Council is the best space to be because you're offering the right kind of modules, learning modules that empowers entrepreneurs like me, directors like me to come up to speed, to compete in the international landscape, to empower enterprises to actually adopt what the government has regulated now in terms of ESG, it could be, for example, and also to do with corporate governance. I think a lot of these laws have evolved now of late. And thanks to the leadership at the central level and the state level, where they're definitely mandating the enterprises, be it small, medium, large, to say that, look, if India has to achieve the targets to be at the global level, then it all starts from the grassroots. So we want our entrepreneurs and our enterprises to actually come up to speed. And the lacunae is that the leadership needs this kind of knowledge before they can even implement anything. So that's why I chose this, and I feel that I'm really going to be doing good moving forward for these enterprises.
Great to hear that, Mr. Raj. And it's always fascinating how, even after decades of experience, you chose to step into a space of learning again. And that humility, curiosity really shows in the way you have described that transition. Great. So, Mr. Raj, let me tell you, this has been a truly meaningful conversation. What stands out isn't just the work you have done or the companies you have built, but the way you have stayed grounded through change, technological shifts, and growth. So, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your thinking, and experience that shaped you. And we are really grateful for sharing your time with us.
Thank you, Sunny. It was a pleasure talking to you and being on FaceTime with leaders. I really enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you once again, Mr. Raj. And to everyone listening, today's episode is a reminder that strong brands aren't built by chasing attention. They are built by clarity, they are built by consistency and intention. I'm your host, Sunny Pancholi, and this has been FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. Thank you for spending your time with us. Stay curious, stay thoughtful, and keep building work that truly matters. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.